In a small town, there was a man named Jim, and he worked at a local gym. Every morning he arrived before dawn. The air was cool, and the only sounds were the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of traffic. Jim was the janitor. He swept the floor each day, pushing the broom from one end of the gym to the other, his movements steady and rhythmic. As the sun began to rise, its light spilled through the windows, casting a warm glow over the gym. Jim liked this time of day. It felt peaceful and quiet, just him and the empty weight machines. He found comfort in cleaning and making the space shine for others. He believed that a clean gym was a welcoming gym, but beneath his calm demeanor, Jim often felt invisible. He noticed how the trainers barely nodded in his direction, lost in their world of personal records and client success stories. The members rushed past him, their earbuds in place, focused on their workouts, not on him. In a place filled with people eager to change their lives, Jim often felt like a ghost. That day was no different. He picked up the broom and began to work. As he swept, he lost himself in thought. He remembered his dreams of becoming a trainer. Years ago, he had taken a few classes on personal training. He loved helping others, and he had the knack for motivating people. He could see their determination through his eyes, but life had taken him on a different path. Finances, family, and reality pushed his dreams aside. With each stroke of the broom, Jim felt a mix of pride and sorrow. Cleaning was important, but it wasn't what he truly wanted to do. As he moved toward the entrance, something caught his eye. The last bit of dust gathered near a small mat. He swept it away and straightened up, shaking off the tiredness that seemed to cling to him. As he turned, he froze. Above the entrance, he saw something he had never noticed before. There, etched neatly into the wood, were words that sent a chill down his spine. His name. Jim's heart raced. Had this always been here? How could he have missed it? He stepped closer, squinting to read it better. This wasn't just a name. It was a mark of ownership, a claim. Suddenly, he felt a rush of emotions, confusion mixed with excitement. Could this place really be associated with him? Had the owners thought of him like that? Jim shook his head in disbelief. Doubts crept back in. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe it was a prank. He searched his memory, trying to recall any conversations or moments that could explain this. His mind raced, recalling the times he cleaned up after sweaty bodies and loud music. Trainers took breaks and often joked about who cleaned the most. Was this name a joke, a slap in the face? He took a deep breath and turned away, forcing himself to focus on the task at hand, but his thoughts lingered on that name above the door. It felt heavier than the bucket of cleaning supplies he dragged behind him. With every pass of the broom, he could see those letters glistening above him. They almost seemed to shimmer in the light of the rising sun. The gym opened, and clients began to filter in. Young faces, elderly faces, people of all shapes and sizes, all chasing their own dreams. Some grunted and groaned as they lifted weights. Others turned on treadmills, their faces set in concentration. Jim noticed them now not as strangers, but as part of the pulse of the place he cared for. They were on their journeys while he was on his own, but was he really just a watcher in their world? As the hours passed, he found himself distracted. Sweeping, mopping, and cleaning felt different now. With each shove of the broom, he felt the weight of that name mixture inside of him. Could he really belong here? Could he become more than just the janitor? During his lunch break, he sat in the corner, away from the noise. As he slowly chewed on his sandwich, his gaze drifted back to the entrance. It was as if that name pulled him like a lighthouse guiding a lost ship back to shore. Who would know that seeing his name could stir something deep inside him? He wanted to be more than invisible. That's when Sarah, a young trainer who often worked with beginners, approached him. She had a big smile and a warmth that immediately put Jim at ease. "Hey, Jim." Jim nodded, a bit surprised she recognized him, but only managed a soft smile. "Yeah, just the usual." She tilted her head and said, "You know, I appreciate what you do. This place is always so clean." The compliment washed over him like a warm breeze, filling the gaps of doubt that had formed around his heart. "Thank you, Sarah. It's important to me. I want everyone to feel good here," he replied, feeling a strange surge of pride. She continued, "You ever thought about training? You know a lot about fitness and health." Jim felt the heat rush to his cheeks. "I've thought about it, but it never really worked out." "Don't let that stop you," she said earnestly. "I mean, look at you, you're here every day, people notice you." Those words sunk deep into him, igniting a spark he thought had long gone out. He asked, hope edging into his voice. "Absolutely," Sarah nodded. "You might not see it, but you matter here, Jim." For the first time, someone had acknowledged his presence in a way that made him feel seen. It was like she peeled back a layer that had formed around his heart. Jim smiled widely, feeling alive with possibility. As the day wore on, Jim found it hard to concentrate on cleaning. Every time he swept past the entrance, he looked up, feeling that etching etched itself into his mind. It wasn't just words, it was a challenge, a calling. That night when he finally got home, he pulled out old notebooks from years ago. They were full of his training notes, ideas, and dreams. He had written down tips on how to motivate clients, how to create meal plans, and ways to connect with people on their fitness journeys. These pages were filled with a past that he had buried. With each scribbled note, he felt a surge of excitement. Those dreams were still alive. They had just been waiting for him to acknowledge them. The gym wasn't just a place he worked, it could be a place he thrived. The next day, he arrived at the gym with a newfound energy. The morning routine of sweeping and mopping felt different. He took his time, letting his thoughts dance around the potential of what was to come. He could visualize himself not just cleaning, but training others, helping them find their confidence. As clients filled the gym, he noticed something change in the air. It was like he was vibrating with a different kind of energy, one that made him feel alive. He took every opportunity to chat with gym goers, offering encouragement or tips when he could. Slowly, they began to recognize him not as just the janitor, but as someone who cared about their journeys. A week passed and Jim gathered the courage to speak to the gym manager, Greg. He entered the office with a lump in his throat. Greg looked up and smiled, inviting him to sit. Well, here goes nothing, he thought. I've been thinking about the future. I want to get involved more, maybe train clients. Greg raised an eyebrow, intrigued. That's great to hear. We could always use more trainers. Jim's heart raced. Really? Are you serious? I'd love to. I just thought. With a nod, Greg said, you're a part of this place, Jim. Your name is above the entrance for a reason. In that instant, all the doubts that had weighed him down floated away. His name, once just letters above the doorway, now held promise. It was a reminder that sometimes change can start with a simple act of faith in oneself. Weeks turned into months, and Jim embraced the process. He learned, trained, and began helping others reach their goals. Each time he stepped into the gym, he felt the joy of belonging. The name above the entrance was no longer just a statement, it became a testament of his journey. With every session, he discovered that helping others illuminated his own path. The gym blossomed not just with sweat and effort, but also with laughter, connections, and victories. And every time he swept the floor, he smiled. It was a sign of progress, a mark of transformation. Jim had gone from being invisible to becoming a beacon of light, guiding others to their dreams. Each day, the name etched above the entrance echoed in his heart. Jim's gym, a reminder that sometimes all it takes is a little faith to sweep away the dust and step into the light. He'd spent years in that gym, the hum of treadmills and the clanking of weights the soundtrack of his mornings, but today felt different. As Tom swept the floor, his heart raced. The smell of fresh rubber mats filled the air, and shafts of morning light poured through the high windows, illuminating the dust floating like tiny stars. It was just another Thursday, or so he thought. Each morning he woke early, just as the world was starting to stir and clean. He took pride in the way the gym sparkled for its members, a sanctuary for those seeking strength and change. But today, with every stroke of the broom, there was an unusual tension creeping beneath his skin. An itch, a gnawing feeling that something significant was on the brink of happening. Tom pushed the broom along the polished floor, his thoughts drifting like the dust he cleared away. He remembered his dreams of becoming a trainer, how he had loved helping people discover their strength. He had trained hard and earned his certification, but life somehow swept him in a different direction. Bills, responsibilities, and reality kept reining him in, and now he found himself here sweeping floors, watching others pursue their dreams while his remained locked away. As he swept near the entrance, something caught his eye. The light hit just right, and for a brief moment he was blinded by brilliance. When his vision cleared, it was as if time had stopped. His name, a statement carved into the very foundation of the place he worked. Stunned, he dropped the broom, the sound echoing in the quiet space. His heart pounded as he took a step closer, disbelief sinking in. How had he never noticed this before? Was it possible? Had someone actually taken the time to honor him? Emotions surged within him, confusion, joy, and a hint of fear. Could he really allow himself to believe this? What did it mean? Was it a sign? Or merely a joke someone had played on the janitor? He felt a lump form in his throat as he gazed at the letters cutting into the wood, standing bold and unapologetic against the backdrop of the gym. The door swung open, breaking his trance. A few regulars shuffled in, their energy palpable as they greeted one another, excitement and determination written across their faces. Tom stepped back, feeling like an intruder in their bright world. As he picked up the broom, he noticed them moving confidently, lost in their routines, and he felt like a shadow barely acknowledged. That nagging itch returned, and he realized he didn't want to fade into the background anymore. The name above the entrance called to him. It beckoned him to step into a life he had long set aside. But how? The gym had always been a place where he felt safe, yet now it felt like a battleground of ambition. During his lunch break, he sat on a bench outside, soaking in the sunlight, but his mind was consumed with thoughts. Would it be possible to change his path? He watched a mother with her child walk by, the little one sparked with happiness as he clutched a toy. She said, a smile illuminating her face. Tom felt inspired by that moment, longing for encouragement, wishing someone would tell him the same. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his old training notes. They were scattered with ideas, routines, and tips he'd once been so passionate about. As he read, a flicker of hope ignited within him. He could still pursue this. He imagined standing in front of a group, guiding them through workouts, helping them find their strength. But what would the members think? He brushed off the self-doubt. If that name was meant to inspire him, perhaps it was time to let it do just that. When he returned to the gym, he hung around the front desk, watching trainers interact with their clients. Each laugh, each high five filled him with longing. He looked up at his name again, and with every glance it urged him to take a leap into the unknown. Finally, he approached Lisa, the head trainer, who was busy organizing schedules. "Hey Lisa," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. She looked up, surprised. "Of course, Tom. About the training program. I think I want to enroll." "I've been a janitor long enough. I want to help people like you do," he said, holding his breath. Her eyes lit up with recognition, and she leaned forward, genuinely interested. "That's incredible. I knew you had it in you. You've got the heart for it." Tom felt encouraged by her enthusiasm, his fears beginning to dissolve. "I know it's a big jump, but I want to try." Lisa nodded in understanding. "You'll find a way. Passion drives us, Tom. Look at all those people in here. You have the potential to light that fire in them." He stood in that moment, buoyed by her words, picturing himself in that role. After their conversation, he took a deep breath and decided to commit himself to the program. There was no looking back. Weeks passed, and Tom found himself immersed in training. Early mornings turned into late nights, juggling cleaning duties with studying and practice sessions. He spent his breaks watching the other trainers, taking mental notes on their techniques and approaches. Each day ignited something new within him, pushing him toward the entrance he had often looked upon with envy. With every workout he observed, he felt the energy coursing through him. Members often nodded at him, becoming familiar with his growing presence. They began to see him not just as the janitor, but as someone deeply invested in their success. One evening, as the gym emptied and he finished his last cleaning sweep, he passed by the entrance for what felt like the 1,000th time. Yet this time he noticed something remarkable. The etching above his head wasn't just a marker, it had transformed into a promise. The following day, during a training session, Lisa surprised him by asking him to lead a warm-up. His heart raced as he stepped forward, eyes darting to the members looking back at him. Doubts whispered in the back of his mind, but he pushed them away like dust beneath his broom. "All right, everyone," he announced, feeling the adrenaline pulse through him. The moment felt electric as he guided them through stretches. As they followed his lead, he felt a profound sense of belonging. This was his moment. After the warm-up, he caught the gleam of pride in Lisa's eyes and felt supported by the group. They weren't just there to work out, they were there, investing in their wellness and in him. It was a magical feeling, like he had finally found his place. As weeks turned into months, Tom transformed within those walls. Training sessions turned into bonds with the clients he helped. He discovered a knack for motivating those who walked through the door, helping them break through barriers, much like he was doing for himself. One evening, he stood in front of a group for a fitness class, his heart soaring with a newfound confidence. The lighting cast soft shadows, giving the gym a warm, welcoming glow. He felt like he belonged. Challenging them, laughing with them, guiding them through sweat and triumph became his passion. And each time he swept the floor, he did so with pride, a sense of purpose guiding him. Then came the day of the gym's annual showcase, a chance for members to show off their transformations. Tom had worked tirelessly with a group he had trained. As each person stepped up, beaming with pride, he felt their victories mirrored in his own. At the end of the showcase, the owner stood to address the crowd. Tom felt his heart quicken as he listened closely. "This year we want to recognize someone who has gone above and beyond," he said. His gaze swept across the room, landing on Tom, who stood still, confusion washing over him. Had he done something worthy of recognition? The owner called, his voice full of warmth. The room erupted into applause, Tom astonished, disbelief filling him. As he approached the front, he caught sight of a banner draped beside the entrance. He felt the swell of emotions, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. "This gym thrives because of you, Tom," the owner said, his voice resonating through the room. "Your dedication and spirit have made a profound impact on our community." The applause grew deafening, and in that moment, time froze yet again. He looked up at the name etched above him. It wasn't just a name anymore. It was a testament to who he had become, a brand woven from resilience, passion, and authenticity. As he returned to the floor, he solidified his position not just as a trainer, but as a beacon for others, proof that purpose can emerge from the most unexpected places. Each time he walked beneath that name, he felt its weight, a reminder of a journey fueled by self-discovery, courage, and the belief that sometimes you must simply sweep the floor first to truly see yourself rise. He swept the floor, pushing the broom with a rhythm that felt almost meditative, when he caught a glimpse of something that stopped him in his tracks. It was just past dawn, the sun spilling warm light through the tall windows of the gym. Dust danced in the air, caught in the beams, giving a magical glow to the quiet space. His breath hitched. Andy's gym, he blinked, taking a step back to confirm what he saw was real. Somehow, seeing his name there filled him with a mix of pride and dread. He wondered, heart racing, had he truly earned this place, or was it a cruel joke, a mockery of a dream that felt impossibly distant? Andy had been cleaning this very gym for years, a steady routine of sweeping, mopping, and occasionally, when the trainers noticed him putting up the equipment they'd carelessly left out, he didn't mind it. In fact, there was a certain comfort in his daily tasks, a quiet satisfaction in making the space shine for the members that came to push themselves. but despite being surrounded by energy, he often felt like a ghost, drifting unnoticed around the weights and treadmills. His morning routine was both sanctuary and prison. The clanging of weights, the sounds of grunts and encouragement in the background filled the air like a familiar melody, yet it often felt lonely. He would watch the trainers, their laughter punctuating the air as they guided clients through grueling exercises. Sometimes they'd even chat with him, tossing a friendly word or two his way, but mostly they didn't see him, and that made his heart ache just a little. The name above the entrance lingered in his mind like a sunbeam that warmed his back but left shadows in the corners of his soul. What did it mean for him? Was there more to his life than this? He resumed sweeping, but the broom felt heavier now. Each stroke sent waves of doubt crashing against his resolve. "You've lost track of your dreams," a whisper inside him echoed. Andy had held on to hopes of becoming a personal trainer once upon a time. He had even signed up for classes, his heart racing with ambition, only to let responsibilities suffocate those dreams. The bills piled up and life swirled him away from the passion that once lit a fire in his belly. But seeing his name, his heart skipped. That moment could mean something profound. It was a reminder that he had a stake in this place. The day broke into a flurry of activity as members began arriving, fueling him with vibrant energy. He swept his thoughts aside, focusing instead on them. The bright-eyed fitness enthusiasts, the determined faces pushing limits, and the laughter of friends encouraging each other. They were enthusiastic, alive. Andy yearned to be part of that world where positivity thrived. Yet each time he cleaned, he felt like an outsider looking in. As the hours passed, the gym buzzed with activity, and Andy found himself engulfed by it. He watched as people turned to face their fears, pushing through limits, sometimes pausing for a breath, sometimes collapsing from strain, but always getting back up again. Among them, he felt the tug of his own aspirations, deep-rooted emotions coming to the surface, filling his heart with longing. During a break, he sat in the corner of the spacious lobby, the weight of unanswered questions mingling with the cooling coffee in his cup. Those moments before morning shifts rushed by like quicksilver. Suddenly, Lisa, a young trainer known for her infectious spirit, slid onto the bench beside him. "Hey, Andy," she asked, her smile brightening the dullness around him. "Oh, you know, just cleaning," he smiled back, but deep down he felt something stir. Lisa glanced around the gym, then back at him. "You've got an eye for detail." Her words struck him like a bolt of lightning, a flash of recognition, a moment of clarity. "Thanks," he said, trying to brush it off, but as she continued to talk, he couldn't shake off the whispering possibility of more. "You should think about training, you know." The compliment warmed him, but the doubts returned faster than he could catch his breath. I'm just a janitor, Lisa," she insisted, her energy sincere. "People need guidance, you have that gift." In that moment, as he sat on the bench, he felt a flicker of hope. Was it really possible to step beyond the shadows into the light? Could he reclaim the dreams he'd allowed to fade? The idea hovered over him like a thin veil, tantalizing yet frightening. At that moment, the name above the entrance felt like both a challenge and an invitation. He stood taller. Maybe it was time to embrace his aspirations, to become a trainer and inspire others, just like Lisa had inspired him. With renewed purpose, he began studying in earnest. Instead of simply cleaning, he stayed back after his shift to educate himself further. He watched training videos, he asked questions of those around him. He absorbed everything, the proper techniques, effective communication, how to ignite motivation in others. He buried himself in books and discussions, desperately trying to reclaim what he thought he had lost. As weeks passed, he began to shift from the shadows to the spotlight, inch by inch. He felt a change come over him, not just in his knowledge, but within himself. He found himself working out alongside the trainers, picking up weights he hadn't dared touch for years. Each drop of sweat became a testament to his determination. He studied the way members pushed themselves, and it fueled him with the desire to be more than just a janitor. One afternoon, after another long shift, Andy finally mustered the courage to speak to the gym manager, a warm yet firm man named Greg who had welcomed him into the space so many years ago. "Greg, I want to talk about training." Greg raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I do," Andy replied, his voice steadying with conviction. "Well, I'm always up for new talent," Greg nodded. "We could definitely use an extra set of hands and a different perspective." Those words sent a jolt of hope through him, igniting a fire in his belly. This was it, the chance to finally break free from the chains of self-doubt and emerge as the person he had always wanted to be. Days turned into a whirlwind of training, study sessions, and intense workouts. He found himself waking up earlier than ever, filled with purpose, his heart humming with the belief that he could do this. Each session deepened his knowledge and revealed more of his lost potential. He practiced routines, refining his techniques in silence when the gym was empty. Slowly, members began to notice the change. They'd wave, acknowledging him not simply as the guy who cleaned, but as someone who belonged. With every smile, every nod of recognition, Andy felt walls crumbling around him. He smiled back, confidence growing with every connection he forged. It was another bustling Thursday afternoon when his heart began pounding harder than usual. He had been preparing to lead a group warm-up for the first time. The flicker of nerves teased at the edges of his calm, but he stood there, fists clenched, ready to rise to the occasion. As the members gathered, a familiar face Lisa gave him a nod of encouragement from the sidelines. She mouthed, and in that moment he felt invincible. As the gym filled with laughter and anticipation, Andy stepped forward, taking his place at the front. He exclaimed, voice ringing clear and strong. His heart surged as they followed his lead. Movements flowed like poetry, and laughter erupted as he encouraged people to feel the rhythm in their bodies. In that moment he transformed, stepping boldly into the name above the entrance. He was no longer just Andy, the janitor, he was Andy, the trainer. With each exercise he felt the fire intensifying within him, igniting passion that had long simmered beneath the surface. People smiled, pushed themselves, bonding in the shared experience of growth. Every drop of sweat turned into validation, every high five a celebration. After the warm-up, the exhilaration buzzed through him like a rush of electricity. Members cheered, applause ringing in his ears. In that moment he was at home. His dreams were no longer distant stars, they were tangible realities unfolding right in front of him. As the weeks turned into months, Andy's confidence blossomed. The once quiet janitor became a beacon of motivation for others. His name above the entrance transformed into an emblem of his journey, a reminder of every step he'd taken to rise above doubt and fear. On a particularly busy evening, after finishing a training session, Andy turned to see the gym quieting down. He approached the entrance, gazing up at the familiar etching of his name. This time, it surged with meaning, a legacy of resilience birthed from hard work, passion, and transformation. Looking back at the faces illuminated by the gym's lights, he felt a swell of gratitude. They were a community forged in effort and friendship, each person inspiring another. In that moment, he understood. The name didn't just belong to him, it belonged to each person who stepped through the doors, calling on their strength, facing their fears. And as he stood there in the glow of possibility, he realized the truth. Sometimes it takes sweeping the floor to reveal not just what lies beneath the surface, but also who you truly are meant to be. He swept the floor, lost in rhythm, when he glanced up and froze. It felt like the universe had whispered his name, and suddenly everything around him faded. The clanking of weights, the chatter of excited gym-goers, all swallowed by the enormity of that moment. David blinked, half expecting the letters to vanish, but they remained solid and undeniable. His heart raced. This wasn't just any gym, it was his asterisk gym. Years spent dreaming of being someone, something more flooded into his thoughts. Standing there with a broom in hand, reality took him by the collar and shook him hard. Could it be? Could he carve a place for himself beyond just the janitor? Each day began the same. He arrived before the sun peaked over the horizon, sweeping the floors and mopping away the grit left by the members. The routine had become almost automatic, a meditative cycle that filled his mornings with a sense of purpose, even if it felt small. But underneath that calm exterior, he carried a weight of unfulfilled dreams. He had always wanted to train people, to guide them on their fitness journeys. He remembered when he first stepped into a gym, a wide-eyed teenager with dreams of becoming a personal trainer, full of hope and energy. But life had a way of pushing those dreams aside, like the dust he swept daily. He pulled his gaze away from the words above the entrance and resumed sweeping, but that rush of possibility lingered at the back of his mind. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe he needed to shake off the dust of complacency and chase something powerful. As the sun rose higher, the gym began to fill with life. Familiar faces emerged, each one carved from their unique stories. There was Sarah, the enthusiastic young athlete always pushing her limits, Mr. Thompson, an older gentleman who came in every day, determined to regain his strength, and the steady crew of trainers, loud and boisterous, guiding their clients through sweat and determination. David watched them as they engaged with one another, laughter and encouragement echoing off the walls. It was electric, invigorating, and he felt that familiar tug in his chest. These people were chasing something meaningful, and here he was, just the guy in the background. The thought stung. Then Lisa, one of the trainers, strolled over his way. "Hey, David." She teased, a playful grin on her face. Shining as usual, he replied with a hint of pride. "Good, we need it for all those sweaty workouts." Her words warmed him in that moment, but they also added a layer of frustration. "Thanks, but," he asked, the question slipping out before he could tether it. Lisa paused, contemplating. "You mean like training?" David hesitated. She pressed gently. The conversation hung in the air, heavy and charged. David took a deep breath. "Because life keeps happening, you know. I have bills, responsibilities. Life will always throw things at you," she said. That question echoed within him. What did he want? The thought pinned him in place, igniting a flicker of courage. If he wanted more than this, if he wanted to be more than this, the time to act was now. Days turned into weeks, and he kept fighting with himself. Each morning he arrived ready to sweep and clean, but the name above the entrance taunted him, urging him to take a leap. He carried a notebook in his pocket, filled with workout routines, motivational quotes, and tips he'd picked up over the years. They felt like whispers of memories from a life he had set aside but never fully forgotten. It was during one of those early shifts that he overheard a conversation among trainers about an upcoming workshop for those interested in becoming gym instructors. The workshop could pave the way for a certification that would give him a voice, a real chance to step forward. The gym echoed with laughter and determination as he listened, his heart pounding in his chest. The chatter sounded promising, and suddenly the weight lifted a fraction. Could he dare to dream again? That night he finally opened his notebook, poring over everything he had written. He can do this, he thought. He could sign up for the workshop and make a step toward that etching of his name above the door. He drafted an email, fingers trembling over the keyboard, and hit send. That small act was monumental, a tiny sliver of hope. The weeks rolled on. Each morning David cleaned with a new resolve. He began collecting ideas, studying the trainers and how they interacted with clients. He observed, learned, and practiced every technique he could. The more he did, the clearer his vision became. No longer was he just sweeping, he was preparing. Then came the day of the workshop. He arrived, nervous energy bubbling in his stomach, and as the facilitator stood in front, explaining the first topic, David felt alive. This was it, the place where his dormant dreams could rekindle. He absorbed the information, engaging with every exercise, growing confidence with each passing moment. The room was charged with enthusiasm. He could see the trainers, the people who had once seemed so far away, were now allies on this journey. They were encouraging and supportive, sharing their experiences and tips, and they all acknowledged him, hoisting him from the sidelines into their world. As the workshop progressed, David found himself participating more actively. He practiced leading a few exercises, guiding fellow participants through warm-ups. The laughter, the spirit, it fed into him, pushing aside his fears. What if he wasn't good enough? The thoughts taunted him, but every time he caught sight of the name above the entrance, he remembered why he started. It stood as a promise, a challenge to push further, to reclaim his dreams. As the program ended, David was filled with exhilaration. The facilitator announced there would be an opportunity for a few participants to assist in upcoming training sessions. This was his chance, a leap into the unknown that could reshape his life. After the workshop, Lisa approached him, her smile wide. "I saw you in there." "You were fantastic, thanks," he said, a little embarrassed but proud nonetheless. "I'm thinking about volunteering for a few sessions." "I believe in you, you've got everything it takes," she encouraged, placing a hand on his shoulder. It felt grounding, like a lifeboat in a stormy sea of self-doubt. The next week he began assisting during morning training sessions. Many familiar faces greeted him, the young athletes, the steady members, and the trainers who had become mentors. Each session he co-led made him feel more connected and vibrant. He found new ways to motivate those around him, watching their expressions shift from doubt to determination. Every shout of encouragement felt like fuel for his soul. He thrived seeing others succeed, watching them push through their limits. As he guided a group through their routines, he discovered a new spark within himself, burning brightly, dispelling the shadows of his insecurities. Then one Friday, the owner of the gym, Greg, called for a meeting. Anxiety washed over him. Had he done something wrong? As David gathered in the back with others, Greg smiled warmly. His heart raced. Who could it be? Shocked, he walked to the front, feeling the eyes on him, palms sweating. It was surreal. "We want to applaud your dedication and the energy you've brought to this gym," Greg continued. "From cleaning floors to leading workouts, your journey inspires many." The room erupted in cheers, and David felt warmth wash over him. His name, the etching at the entrance, was no longer just words. It was a reflection of his growth and commitment. A few members even clapped and shouted encouraging words. With sweat on his brow and a rush of emotions filling his heart, he spoke. "I've loved this place since I first stepped in, and now." As David took in that moment, cheers erupting around him, encouragement pouring in, he glanced at the name above the entrance. David's Gym Asterisk. He realized it wasn't just about ownership or accolades. It was a testament to a journey made of hard work, determination, and the courage to step out of the shadows. From that day forward, he stepped into each session with unyielding confidence. Each time he guided a workout, he felt more connected to the people who filled the space around him. They were part of his story, just as he was a part of theirs. Weeks turned into months, and as summer approached, the gym expanded and flourished. David became a known name among the regulars, a source of inspiration and motivation. Every evening he still swept the floor, but something had changed. Instead of just cleaning, he thought about the community he was building and the connections he was fostering. His confidence grew as he took on more responsibility. One day, as he finished his shift, he stopped at the entrance and looked up at his name. The etching shone brightly in the sunlight, and he felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He had answered a call deep within himself, and now, here it was real and tangible. It wasn't just his name, it stood for the resilience cultivated through struggle, trials, and triumphs. As he stepped out into the warm evening air, a realization settled within him. Sometimes it takes sweeping the floors, facing your fears, and embracing change to uncover who you truly are. It was a reminder that dreams do come alive when you dare to chase them, and each moment is a chance to carve your own story. David had become more than a name. He had become an inspiration, a guide, a treasure that belonged to everyone who stepped through those doors. He swept the floor with a steady rhythm, lost in his thoughts when something caught his eye. The words seemed to pulse with life, cutting through his morning haze like a flash of lightning. He froze, broom mid-stroke, his pulse quickening. That was his name, Jake, etched in bold letters, hanging there like a challenge, a promise. For a moment, the hum of the gym, the clanking weights, the grunts, the laughter faded away. Confusion washed over him, mixed with something deeper, a flicker of hope. How could he have missed this? The name wasn't just a label, it felt like a doorway, a threshold into a life he had long dreamed of but hadn't dared to chase. Jake had spent years in this gym, cleaning the floors, mopping sweat, and picking up weights that regulars dropped without a second thought. He thrived in the routine, the quiet satisfaction of leaving everything sparkling, ready for the day's hustle. But while others pushed through boundaries, he stood at the edge, an observer, longing to jump in. Each morning he would arrive early, just as the first light filtered into the building. He knew the place better than most. From the swirled patterns of the flooring to the way the sound echoed off the walls, Jake felt at home here. But it wasn't just a job for him, it was a sanctuary, a place where he could dream about who he could become. But that dream had started to fade. Life had a way of silencing aspirations, binding them with the chains of responsibility. Bills piled up, family responsibilities loomed large, and the fire that once burned bright dimmed slowly over the years. The gym should have been a place of renewal, yet it became a reminder of battles he'd once fought and lost. As he stood there, broom in hand, swept up in a whirlwind of emotions, the doubts crept in. "What do you really want, Jake?" The words echoed like a taunt. Was that all he would ever be? The gym filled with life around him, members flooding in with trainers, laughter and encouragement bouncing around the space. Each face told a story of resilience, of battles fought and won. Jake watched them, his heart ached. They had found their strength while he remained nestled in the shadows. The name above the door burned like a beacon of possibility, but he felt frozen in place. What if he failed to step up? Hours passed in a blur. He swept diligently, yet every stroke felt heavier. The name loomed larger in his mind, insisting he pay attention. "You could lead them, you could help them," whispered, but the fear of failure loomed even larger. Later that afternoon, as he took a short break, Lisa, a vibrant trainer known for her infectious positivity, approached him. "Hey Jake," she chirped, her bright eyes sparkling. "Just the usual," he replied, trying to sound nonchalant. So chuckled, glancing around. "Well, you do an amazing job." His heart fluttered at her compliment, but self-doubt crept back in. "Thanks, but I've been thinking, maybe I could do more." She paused, surprise flickered across her face. "Why not? You've got the passion, you see how hard everyone works." Jake felt the warmth of her encouragement wash over him, but anxiety gripped his throat. "It's not that easy, Lisa, I have responsibilities." She suggested, "Start slow, lead a group, try it out." Her enthusiasm was contagious, igniting a spark of hope within him, but fear quickly doused it. Who was he kidding? He was just a cleaner. As Lisa walked away, the name above the entrance echoed in his mind. Could he really carve out a space for himself? Could he actually belong? That night, after a long day, Jake lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the possibilities. He reached for his notebook, pages crammed with workout plans and motivational quotes he had jotted down over the years. There, buried within scribbles, was the essence of who he once dreamed of becoming. With a deep breath, he began to write out a plan. He would start by leading a small group of friends during off hours, stepping out of his comfort zone. What did he have to lose? The next day he woke with a newfound determination. With each sweep of the floor he felt lighter. It was time to shake the dust off his dream. After finishing his morning cleaning, he took a deep breath and approached Lisa, who was guiding a group workout. He called lightly, his heart racing. "Could I join you for a session sometime?" She beamed at him, excitement sparking in her eyes. "Absolutely, I knew you could do it." Jake could feel his heart pounding fiercely. He was stepping into uncharted territory, yet there was no turning back now. He could feel the name above the entrance watching over him, urging him forward. That weekend, he gathered a few friends, most of whom were regulars at the gym. The session began with nervous energy crackling in the air. Standing at the front, he felt like a deer in the headlights, but he took a deep breath, grounding himself. "All right, everyone," he called, trying to channel the energy he admired from the trainers. As they moved through the warm-up, he felt that spark he had missed for so long. He guided them through stretches, laughter and camaraderie filling the air, and suddenly it felt natural. By the end of the session, Jake was exhilarated, a rush coursing through him. They cooled down together, and the gratitude in their eyes brought him to life. "Jake, that was awesome. You really know how to motivate," one friend exclaimed, and another nodded vigorously in agreement. It stepped into the role effortlessly, guiding them, pushing them, laughing with them. In that moment, a part of him felt alive, unburdened by doubt. Once the session wrapped, he basked in the warm glow of success. He realized that retreating to the shadows no longer suited him. It was time to embrace who he could become. As weeks passed, he continued to lead small groups, each session fueling his growth. The gym became a playground for his ideas, and he found comfort and excitement in the chaos of voices. He began to forge relationships, connect deeply with them, and draw out their inner strength. Each success felt like fuel feeding his fire, propelling him toward a life he had once thought impossible. He He watched as more members gathered, drawn in by the energy he created. They leaned on one another and laughed, growing stronger each day. The name above the entrance took on new meaning. No longer just Jake's gym, it became a sanctuary for everyone looking to better themselves. One day, Greg, the gym owner, approached him. "I've been watching you lead those sessions, Jake. You have a real natural gift." His heart soared. "I'd love to." Greg smiled, approval shining in his eyes. "Let's get you started on that path." Jake felt an overwhelming rush of gratitude. The door had been opened wide, and he was ready to step through it. He dived into the coursework, studying hard, driven by the desire to connect, inspire, and ignite the same passion in others that had dwelled in him for so long. As he built his skills, the gym became more vibrant, a community hub galvanized by shared ambitions and support. People pushed boundaries, transformed their bodies, and cheered each other on as they took steps into the unknown. Yet along with the new responsibilities came challenges. There were days Jake felt exhausted, moments where self-doubt crashed upon him like a tidal wave. What if he wasn't enough? But whenever those feelings surfaced, he would take a moment to gaze at the name above the entrance, a badge of determination and resilience beckoning him forward. And just as he feared he might falter, something magical happened. He would look out at the members' thriving faces filled with joy, sweat mixing with laughter, determination radiating through every rep, and he remembered the journey they were all on together. He wasn't alone in this. In time, Jake became more than just a name etched in wood. He became a beacon of hope for those around him. He found strength in their progress as they found strength in his. Each victory, no matter how small, felt monumental, resonating through the gym, echoing off the walls like a triumphant anthem. Then came the day of the gym's annual showcase, where members would present their transformations, celebrating their hard work. The room buzzed with energy, anticipation hanging thick like the weight of a barbell. Hearts raced as the audience erupted in applause, eyes gleaming with pride. As members took the stage, the applause turned electric. Jake watched people stand tall, sharing their stories of resilience and growth, each one echoing the lessons learned in and out of the gym. The shared victories wove a fabric of belonging that wrapped around everyone present. When it was Jake's turn to take the stage, he felt the surge of camaraderie ripple through the room. Standing in front of everyone, he opened his heart. This space has been a journey, a sanctuary where dreams aren't just whispers but declarations. The audience erupted into cheers, and in that moment, Jake felt a surreal joy settle deep within him. He could see it, the name transformed into a movement, collective purpose. Those simple letters carried the weight of stories, victories, and aspirations. That night, as he cleaned up after the celebration, Jake paused once more at the entrance. It was his name etched in wood, but it was more than that. It was the spirit of everyone who had passed through those doors. It was the joy of possibility, a reminder that no dream is too big, and every step taken toward those dreams is significant. Life hadn't been easy, but he had faced every challenge head-on, broken through barriers, and reclaimed not just a name but a purpose. With resolve surging in his heart, Jake knew this was only the beginning, a lifelong journey of growth for himself and those he'd come to love in the gym. As he swept the floor that night, he felt the strength and resilience of the community wrap around him like a warm embrace. He was no longer just sweeping floors, he was building dreams, and as he looked up at his name above the entrance, he smiled, knowing that sometimes it takes a simple act of sweeping, coupled with the courage to step into the light, to realize who you were always meant to be. He swept the floor, the bristles of the broom tangling with dust and sweat, when something caught his eye. The letters stood out starkly under the harsh fluorescent lights, a revelation that struck him like a bolt of lightning. He stopped in his tracks, heart pounding, broom still in hand. His name, right there, a permanent fixture, but how could this be? He blinked in disbelief, as if the words might vanish the moment he looked away. David had spent nearly every day in this gym for years, always brushing past these letters without a second thought. Standing there, he felt like a statue in a gallery, suddenly alive with a question. What did this even mean for him? He had been the janitor, the nameless silhouette moving quietly in the background while the real magic happened in front of him. He felt invisible, swept away by the rush of trainers shouting encouragement and clients grunting under the weight of their ambitions. People came to this space to grind, to transform, and he had watched them do it from the sidelines, wondering if he could ever become part of that world. David resumed sweeping, but the broom felt heavier now. Each stroke felt more laborious as doubt crept back in. Who was he to think he could join their ranks? He loved fitness, had always been fascinated by the human body, the strength, the discipline, the way people pushed themselves beyond their limits. He had even dreamed of becoming a trainer himself, but life had thrown curveballs, making those dreams feel like wisps of smoke. Time flowed on, and the gym began to fill with the familiar sounds of life. The clanking of weights, the shrieks of laughter, the grunts of hard work, it all ebbed and flowed like a tide, constant and relentless. Members arrived eager to crush their workouts. David watched with a mix of admiration and longing, his heart heavy with the weight of unfulfilled desires. Lisa, a dynamic trainer and one of the favorites among members, wandered over, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Hey, David." He managed a small smile but felt a rush of warmth at her acknowledgement. "Thanks, Lisa." Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "You know, you're always here. You've got the heart for this." The question hung in the air and he blinked at her, momentarily taken aback. "Me, a trainer, I mean," she prodded, genuinely curious. "You've got the knowledge. You see how to motivate people." His heart raced at her words, but fear clawed at him. I don't think I have what it takes," he mumbled, feeling the familiar walls close in. She said, her voice firm yet supportive, "You belong here, David. We need people who care about others, and you care." As she turned to leave, her words echoed in his mind. What if he could be more? What if he took the leap? That night, David lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't shake the thought of the name above the entrance. It felt like a weight and a promise all at once, urging him to step out of the shadows. Could he dare to dream again? The following day, he walked into the gym with a newfound determination, a fire igniting in his soul. He finished his cleaning routine with fervor, but instead of pushing his dreams aside, he decided to take action. He opened his notebook, filled with fitness articles, ideas, and notes, and pondered how he could start leading a small workout group. Weeks turned into a blur as he gathered his courage. He began asking members if they wanted to join him for unofficial sessions. Each person was met with excitement and camaraderie. They clamored to be part of this new adventure, and slowly, David stepped further into the role he had always secretly desired. Finally, the day arrived. He stood at the front of the gym, heart pounding in his chest, ready to lead his very first group workout. His palms felt clammy as he spoke to the small crowd of friends who had come to support him. The workout began, and with a few nervous jokes, he managed to ease the tension in the room. As they moved through the warm-up, he grew more confident. He guided them through exercises, and this time he was not just watching, he was helping, inspiring, and leading. The laughter and energy in the room pulsed around him, wrapping him in a warm embrace. With each shout of encouragement, with each smile exchanged, the weight of self-doubt lifted just a little more. By the end of the session, people were high-fiving him, fueled with excitement, and he felt a sense of pride stirred deep within him. The rush of validation ignited his spirit. In that moment, he knew he could do this. He belonged. His name etched above the entrance transformed from just letters into a beacon of purpose, lighting the path forward. As he continued to lead workouts, he found himself pushing the limits of his own abilities. He recorded videos to share on social media, involving the community and creating challenges. People began to notice his initiative and dedication, and he gained a following. Even the trainers started to view him differently, as someone who could contribute meaningfully. Weeks turned to months, and the gym flourished with David at the helm of his sessions. With every class, he grew not just in confidence, but in skill. He eventually signed up to take his certifications, taking night classes to study while continuing his work at the gym. One fateful evening, after a particularly intense workout, Greg, the gym owner, called him into his office. David's heart raced as he stepped through the door. He wiped his palms on his shorts, nervous anticipation flooding him. "David, I've been watching you as you lead these sessions," Greg began, leaning back in his chair. "You're making a real impact." David's heart soared, yet disbelief clouded his thoughts. "You mean that?" Greg nodded, a serious look in his eyes. "You've proven yourself. The passion you show motivates others. I want you to take the lead for a new program we're launching next month." Stunned, David could hardly grasp the words. "Are you sure? I mean, of course you are. You've been ready since the moment you stepped in here." His knees felt weak, a mixture of excitement and fear swirling within him. The name above the entrance flashed in front of his eyes, and he remembered the weight of every step he'd taken to get here. "Okay, let's do it," David finally said, determination as strong as steel. As the weeks rolled on and the launch date approached, he poured his heart into preparing. The community rallied behind him as they always had. They were family now. They cheered him on, and he felt an electric energy infuse the air. When the day finally arrived, he found himself standing at the front of the gym, faces eager and bright in front of him. The sun streamed in through the windows, casting a golden hue over the scene. Heart racing, he took a breath and let it out slowly. He called, excitement bubbling in his chest. "Today we push limits together." The room erupted with cheers, and he felt a sense of belonging wash over him. Every fear melted away, replaced with the thrill of the challenge ahead. As they moved through the workout, the energy was electric. David led them through each exercise, encouraging them and guiding them through every rep and set. Sweat dripped down his brow, but he felt more alive than ever. By the end of that session, exhausted yet exhilarated, a wave of gratitude filled the air. Members gathered around him, congratulating him for a job well done. They looked at him not just as the janitor who had swept the floors, but as their trainer, a source of inspiration and motivation. One member said, tears glistening in her eyes from the sheer joy of accomplishment. That evening, as he began to tidy up, he glanced up one last time at the name above the entrance. This was his space, his mission, his legacy. He wasn't just sweeping floors anymore, he was building futures. As he claimed, he felt the strength of the community he had helped forge. Every member was part of his journey, and he was part of theirs. Together, they had transformed a gym into more than just a place to work out. They had created a sanctuary for growth and resilience. David took a deep breath, feeling a rush of gratitude and pride course through him. He had stepped through the doorway carved out by that name, embracing his place in the world while igniting a fire in others. And just like that, he knew the act of sweeping the floor had not only unburdened the space, it had illuminated his path, turning whispers of dreams into a powerful reality. He swept the floor, lost in the rhythm of the broom, when something caught his eye just above the entrance. The letters gleamed in the harsh overhead lights, and for a moment, the bustling sounds of the gym, the clanking of weights, the hum of treadmills, the chatter of enthusiastic members faded away. He stood there, dumbfounded, heart racing. Could it be? His name, but how could it be? Mike was a janitor, a man who had spent years cleaning the very space that felt alive with energy and ambition. Every morning he arrived before dawn, sweeping the floors and mopping up the remnants of sweat and determination left by countless gym-goers. This had been his routine, a daily ritual that brought him comfort but also reminded him of how far removed he was from the dreams he once had. A step closer, eyes narrowing as he focused on the letters. It felt surreal, like some cosmic joke. He had watched so many people transform in this space, pushing their limits, lifting weights he could only dream of tackling, sweating through their struggles with determination that left him both inspired and aching with envy. But now it felt as if the universe was beckoning him to wake up. A flood of memories surged through him, dreams of being a personal trainer, of motivating others toward their goals. He'd taken courses in the past, worked hard to understand fitness and strength training, but life had pulled him in a different direction. Bills, responsibilities, and the relentless grind of day-to-day living had silenced those dreams, pushing them into the background like the dust he swept daily. As he resumed sweeping, the broom felt heavier. He couldn't shake off the weight of those words above him. Every stroke became a battle between the promise of transformation and the comfort of complacency. Why hadn't he pursued his passion? What held him back? The gym began to fill with life around him as the sun pierced through the windows. Members filed in, faces bright with determination, ready to tackle their workouts. The energy crackled in the air, electric and invigorating, igniting a flicker of longing deep within Mike's chest. He glanced at the trainers, vibrant and booming like fireworks, guiding clients through their routines, and he felt like a ghost, invisible among the living. Caught snippets of conversations, laughter echoing off the walls, and felt a pang of desire. Maybe today was the day to change everything. Maybe he could carve a space for himself, not just as the man who kept the gym clean, but as someone who facilitated strength and change in others. Taking a deep breath, he made his way to the water fountain where a few familiar faces congregated. Sarah, a spirited young athlete, filled her bottle as she chatted with her friends. Their laughter rang out like music. Mike knew her story well. She had transformed from an unsure beginner into a powerhouse, someone who inspired not just others but herself. Sarah called, her smile brightening the moment. "Yep, you know it," he said, forcing a smile. "You should think about training. You know the ins and outs of this place better than anyone," she said, her voice encouraging. A rush of warmth washed over him at her words, but self-doubt clawed its way back in. It's complicated, you know," she exclaimed, her eyes reflecting sincerity. The comment lingered in the air, stirring something within him. That name above the entrance echoed in his mind, urging him to reconsider. Could he really step up and embrace what had always been tucked away? Later that evening, as he lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, he felt restless. In that moment of vulnerability, he made a choice. He pulled out his notebook, filled with thoughts and dreams that had been hidden away, each page illuminated with potential. He began to jot down ideas, workout routines he designed in his mind, motivational quotes that had inspired him over the years, everything that reflected the dream he had once held tight. As he wrote, a sense of clarity washed over him. The name above the entrance sparked a fire. Maybe he could start small. Maybe he could gather a few friends for an informal workout session and see how it felt. The prospect thrilled him, and slowly the weight of doubt began to dissipate. The next day, Mike swept the gym with purpose, no longer just clearing the floor but clearing his mind. He finished early, his heart racing as he thought about reaching out to others. With resolute determination, he approached a few regulars, people he felt comfortable with, and invited them to join him for a workout the following Saturday. They were eager to join, and as the days passed, anticipation bubbled within him. Finally, the day came. Standing in front of the gym, he felt a rush of adrenaline course through his veins. The space was filled with energy, weights clanged, and people shouted encouragement to one another. Taking a deep breath, he set up for his first informal session, heart pounding as he waited for his friends. When they arrived, he felt a wave of warmth wash over him. This was his moment. "All right, everyone," he called, his voice shaking with excitement as he positioned himself at the front, nervous but ready. As he led them through warm-ups, he could see the determination etched on their faces. Laughter erupted as they followed his lead. He felt his confidence grow with each rep. The laughter, the sweat, the camaraderie, they fueled him. He invited them to share their stories, encouraging open dialogue, and soon the session morphed into something beautiful, a community of support and growth. By the end of the workout, they were high-fiving and laughing, exhilaration coursing through the group. Mike felt alive, his heart swelling with joy as he acknowledged his friend's progress. They had come together, pushing each other to embrace their limits. One of his friends exclaimed, excitement lighting up his eyes. The rush of validation told him everything he needed to know. He could do this. As he cleaned up after the session, he felt empowered, the name above the entrance now resonating with deeper meaning. With every step he took, he shed pieces of doubt, emerging more vibrant and alive. As weeks turned into months, Mike continued leading small group workouts and attendance grew, creating an atmosphere of positivity and ambition. They encouraged one another, creating a bond fueled by shared goals, each person lifting the other higher. One day, as he led another session, he caught a glimpse of Sarah watching from the sidelines, her bright smile beaming with approval. He managed to walk her way during break, and she grinned. "You're really doing this." "Thanks, Sarah," he said, a sense of pride swelling within him. "And you're doing it," she replied, her enthusiasm infectious. The notion fluttered in his mind, and after every session he kept mulling it over. Perhaps it was time to pursue official certification, the path he had hesitated to take for so long. The name above the entrance became a beacon, illuminating his way forward. One evening he decided to speak to Greg, the gym owner and a mentor in many ways. "Hey Greg," he began, anxiety creeping into his voice. "I've been considering becoming a certified trainer." Greg raised an eyebrow, a smile breaking across his face. "I was hoping you'd say that. You've shown remarkable growth and dedication." Every shred of doubt melted away. This was the sign he had been waiting for. Weeks later, he plunged headfirst into the studies, poring over fitness manuals, attending training and nutrition workshops, learning everything he could. His journey became one of discovery, not just in techniques and theories, but within himself. With every new session, with every passing day, he felt more confident. He was transforming into someone he had longed to become, and each workout solidified that change. Then came one fateful evening when an opportunity arose. Greg announced that there would be an upcoming gym showcase, allowing members to demonstrate their progress. This would be the first time Mike would step into the spotlight officially, leading one of the training sessions at the event. The thoughts swirled in his mind, mingling nerves and excitement. Anxiety clawed its way back in as the date approached, but as he looked at the name above the entrance every day, he felt grounded. This was his time to shine. The day of the showcase arrived, charged with energy, anticipation buzzing in the air. As the gym filled with members and families excitedly chattering, Mike stepped forward to address the crowd, a wave of confidence washing over him. "Welcome, everyone. Today we celebrate our hard work and dedication." He felt the warmth of their support surrounding him, urging him forward. As he led the group through exercises, the energy pulsed through the room, claps, encouragement, laughter echoed off the walls. The members who had once been strangers shared stories of their journeys, forging a community in the process. By the end of the session, tears glistened in the eyes of many. Celebrating their accomplishments fueled a sense of unity that filled the room. Mike stood there overwhelmed as the realization dawned upon him. The name above the entrance was no longer just his. It had become a symbol of shared aspirations, victories, and collective strength, a reminder that transformation happens not just in isolation, but in community. As the showcase wrapped up, Mike found himself at the entrance once again, gazing up at those words that had once surprised him. Something had shifted. No longer was it merely a name, it had transformed into a testament of resilience, a shared story of hope and growth. In that moment, he felt gratitude wash over him. The journey was not just about sweeping the floors, it was about stepping into the light, embracing his purpose, and igniting the flames of determination in others. He now understood that dreams could flourish, rise, and spread roots, and in embracing that truth, he had found himself. That name above the entrance didn't just belong to him, it belonged to everyone willing to push their limits and reach new heights. And as he walked out of the gym that evening, he held his head high, knowing that he would continue to sweep not just the floors, but also the doubts, fears, and complacency away, leading the way for others to follow. He swept the floor, each stroke of the broom rhythmic and methodical, when something glinted in the corner of his eye. In that moment, the entire world around him faded away, the clanking of weights, the chatter of motivated voices, and all that existed was that name. His name. Alex stood there, frozen, heart racing as disbelief crashed over him like a tidal wave. He had spent years in this gym, pushing a broom through the quiet corners and bright spaces while dreams of becoming a trainer simmered beneath the surface. But seeing his name above the entrance jolted him. It felt as if it was beckoning him, demanding that he pay attention. Taking a step closer, he squinted at those letters. "This isn't a joke," he murmured, a sense of disbelief washing over him, yet it felt so real. This was his safe space where he had watched others transform. He had been the invisible man, cleaning up the sweat and dedication dripping from those who dared to chase their goals. An electric jolt shot through him, flickering a long-buried desire. What if he really could be more? What if that name marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where he stepped from the shadows and grabbed hold of his dreams? As the gym buzzed back to life, he resumed sweeping, but his thoughts were clouded. The more he swept, the more determined he felt. Each stroke of the broom felt heavier, filled with the weight of missed opportunities for growth. He could hear snippets of conversation from around him. A trainer encouraging a newcomer, friends laughing, people motivating each other. It was a world full of energy, a world he longed to join. The gym filled with members bustling in, laughter and sweat creating a vibrant atmosphere. There was Sarah, the passionate young athlete who had conquered her fears and learned to lift weights that once intimidated her. Mike, the older gentleman who came in every day before dawn to regain his strength. Though surrounded, Alex felt like an outsider, a bystander watching dreams unfold without getting a chance to step onto the stage. He shook off the self-doubt and kept sweeping, but that name above the entrance nodded him. What if this was a sign? Could he truly carve out a place for himself in a world where he felt invisible? Later that day, during a brief break, he leaned against the wall and watched the interaction of trainers with their clients. They moved with such ease, their voices full of encouragement and connection. Each high-five exchanged felt electric. Just then Lisa, a skilled trainer known for her motivational spirit, strolled over. "Hey Alex," she called with a wide smile. He nodded, attempting to mask the weight of his thoughts. "Listen, you've got a real talent for this. Have you thought about becoming a trainer? You know so much about fitness already," she said, her tone sincere and encouraging. The question hung in the air like a sudden gust of wind that rattled the leaves. "I've thought about it," he admitted, a mix of excitement and fear swirling in his chest. "Impossible, come on, you're here every day, you know the rhythms of this place and you care about people," she replied, her enthusiasm infectious. Alex felt a spark ignite within him as those words settled deep, but the shadows of self-doubt returned quickly. He confessed. Without missing a beat, Lisa leaned closer. "You won't know until you try." With that, she walked away, leaving him to mull over her words. That night, Alex lay in bed, wrestling with the prospect of change. Should he give it a shot? Should he step away from the safety of his broom? Driven by a sudden intensity, he grabbed a notebook and began to write down everything that had been swirling in his mind. Each idea flowed freely: workout plans, motivational quotes, and dreams of training others. By morning, Alex felt a change inside him, a tiny bud of determination sprouting against a backdrop of fear. He took a deep breath, filled with a remarkable sense of courage. He was ready to at least try. He could start small. What if he gathered a few friends for a workout session? It wouldn't be official, but it was a start. The name above the entrance felt more like a call to action now. As he swept the gym that day, it felt different. It wasn't just a cleaning job anymore, it was the preparation for something bigger. The path ahead began to illuminate, despite the shadows of doubt that lingered. Over the next few days, he approached a few friends who frequented the gym. Their enthusiasm for his idea bolstered his spirits. They cheered, eager to support him. Finally, the day arrived. Alex stood in front of the gym's large windows, heart racing. He felt a blend of excitement and anxiety swirl within him. Taking a deep breath, he set up equipment as his friends trickled in. "Welcome everyone, I'm excited to lead this workout." He tried to sound confident, but he was still nervous, his hands slightly trembling. As they gathered together, the energy in the room surged. They warmed up, following his lead through stretches and light exercises. To his surprise, he found his footing more quickly than expected. Laughter bounced off the walls, and soon he was cracking jokes, his nerves settling with each passing moment. He called, feeling the exhilaration swell within him. They moved through circuit training, and each shout of encouragement from them fueled his spirit. By the end of that session, sweat poured from everyone's brows, but smiles abounded. High fives were exchanged, laughter echoed, and Alex felt alive. One friend exclaimed, his excitement contagious. Pride swelled in Alex's chest. Perhaps this was just the beginning. With each session, he felt more empowered. He had stepped out from behind the broom and into a vibrant new world where he belonged. Weeks rolled on and word spread about his sessions. More people began to show up, drawn in by the atmosphere. Each workout solidified his growing passion, igniting a fire within him. One evening, as he led a particularly energetic group, Greg, the gym owner, approached him, a thoughtful look on his face. "I've been watching your progress, Alex. You've created a real community here," he said. Alex felt a thrill of hope rise within him. "Thanks, Greg," Greg asked, his tone encouraging. The idea sent a jolt of excitement through Alex. "I've considered it, but I wasn't sure if I could handle it," he confessed, a flicker of doubt creeping back in. "Of course you can. You've proven yourself time and again. If you want it, we can make it happen," Greg said with a reassuring smile. Finally, Alex made the decision. He wanted to pursue the certification. He was ready to step into that space officially, but those initial doubts still loomed like dark clouds in his mind. Over the next few months, he dove into his studies. Juggling cleaning duties and preparing for sessions, he soaked up every piece of knowledge he could. He turned the gym into a classroom and his friends into classmates. They would ask questions, feed off each other, and together they transformed through each workout. As the certification approached, the pressure mounted. His heart raced every time he thought about the exam. Just then, as the nagging self-doubt threatened to swallow him whole, he caught sight of that name above the entrance again. Could it really be? The final day arrived. He stood at the entrance of the gym, heart pounding, shifting nervously from foot to foot as he prepared for the examination. The room was filled with other candidates, all equally anxious, pacing and reviewing notes. In that moment, everything hung in the balance: the dreams he had cherished, the fears he had fought, the confidence he had built. As he gathered his notes, he felt the energy of the people around him. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. There was a quiet strength in the room. Suddenly, a voice broke through the silence. "Attention, everyone, welcome to the certification exam." His heart thumped violently against his ribcage, and for the first time, doubt seeped in again. What if this was it? What if he stumbled and fell flat? Would he disappoint everyone, especially himself? But could he really claim that identity? The exam unfolded with intensity. Questions flew at him, task after task, pushing him to his limits. Each time he thought he had nailed it, doubt would creep back in, whispering lies that he'd never truly belong in this arena. Finally, he reached the physical assessment part, where candidates must demonstrate their skills by leading a mini workout session in front of the evaluators. As he grasped the microphone, he felt all eyes on him. Fear threatened to grip him, but the thought of his friends and the gym that had become his sanctuary surged within. "Here goes nothing," he muttered under his breath and stepped forward. The next moment felt like an eternity stretched. He introduced himself, trying to connect with every person in the room as he began leading the warm-up. Sweat trickled down his face, but the connection he felt ignited an unexpected confidence. He guided them through movements, pushing them to dig deep, but as he shouted encouragement, a noise startled him from behind. A loud crash echoed through the gym, pulling his attention away and severing the moment. He turned to see a trainer who had just lifted a heavy barbell, losing his grip and dropping it heavily, sending shockwaves through the room. The members watched in stunned silence as chaos suddenly unfolded. Alex shouted, adrenaline pumping his heart into overdrive. Instinct kicked in, overriding any lingering self-doubt. As he rushed toward the scene, the atmosphere shifted. Would he falter under the pressure? Would this unwanted distraction ruin everything he had worked for? In that moment of uncertainty, he felt the walls closing in. But as he knelt to help, the realization dawned clear as day. He wasn't just another candidate. He was someone built not just for sweeping floors, but for lifting others up, both literally and figuratively. The room held its breath as he began to take charge, issuing instructions, helping to ensure everyone was safe and cared for. The situation transformed. The weight of the moment had shifted from doubt to responsibility. Can he really face the challenges ahead? With his heart pounding and adrenaline coursing through his veins, he felt more real than he ever had. As he turned back to the exam and the waiting evaluators, a surge of determination rose within him. No longer lost in anxiety, he faced the crowd, his friends, his community, the people he had come to love, ready to inspire them again. He called the unmistakable fire igniting in his chest. With new clarity and tenacity, Alex stepped into his destiny. The room exploded with energy as he guided them through workout routines and transcended any lingering fears, leading everyone back into the rhythm of movement, laughter, and connection. And just like that, as the floor shook with their collective strength, he realized something monumental. Sometimes the most overwhelming moments give rise to the most profound awakenings. This wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. As the echoes of encouragement resonated around him, he understood now that his journey had only just begun, poised on the precipice of what could be. What lay ahead was uncertain, but the name above the entrance was no longer just a title, it was a promise of who he would become. As Alex stood at the heart of it all, swept up in the moment, he finally felt alive. But what awaited him next would change the course of everything he had dreamed of, and nothing would ever be the same again.